Hi, my name is Miranda, and I'm going to be explaining the trench warfare and war of attrition. Yep. Uh, First of all, I have to excuse myself because I don't know why I put the bibliography in the first page. I think I was like really hurried. I hadn't put my sources, and then I just noticed the day that I was presenting, so I did a quick and send it. So please don't take points away from me. I'm gonna cry. And we're gonna start with some keywords, main concepts for us to understand the whole thing I'm gonna be talking about right now. First of all, trenches. Trenches were ditches on the ground where the soldiers placed themselves during the whole war of trenches. They were about 2 meters of deep and several meters of length. And they were made of mostly mud, wood sticks, and yeah, it was like mostly that. And the second concept is the word of attrition. Word of attrition is a conflict in which each side tries to bring the others down by killing as many of its men as possible. These lead to a really violent war and a really bloody, like, tragedy. Yeah, we're gonna move on now with how wars were before World War One. This is the whole 18th century, and it's in order to have a comparison point of before and after. If you see me going down, I'm gonna have to excuse myself. It's that I have like I don't know. It's like something on my feet and it's like hurting. So yep. But the first point is that there was only use of conventional weapons, which mean that there was not such thing as chemical weapons, biological weapons, any of that, like nuclear weapons, like no. Conventional weapons include small armed defensive shields and light weapons. And the second thing is that battlefield tactics were still like a thing. They were like really important for wars during the 18th century. The second point is that the target was mainly the opponent's military. Population was not really involved in this, like they weren't like that really effect. And that takes us to the third point, that wars were really long and really common. They were used as a regular way of solving conflicts between nations, but it wasn't like really a problem because population was like not that affected. Like it was only the militaries and yeah. So it was like not like that of a deal for people outside the military. And also the militaries were like really much more smaller, like about 12,000 soldiers. Like they weren't that much of them. I'm not gonna give a whole context and background on the World War One because it's not my topic, but we have to point out that while the war was like being like held in the cities, it was like decided to change it due to the whole crisis. Like the population were starving, they were dying. It was like the whole crisis was going on. And for Europe, their cities and like their monuments and all of that was really important. Like was really important for them. They represented a lot. So they decided to change the war to the outsides of the cities. And then the configuration of the trenches was applied in order to be a strategy like safer to the soldiers, for them to have like a better quality of life during war. But it only ended up with a system that was extremely slow and extremely obsolete. Trenches were located all across from the bottom of Switzerland to the top of the north coast of France, which led to it being impossible to cross the continent without having to go through the trenches. You could do it by sea, but it was really difficult and really expensive. And due to the crisis, like it was an absolute no. It's also important to highlight that trenches were the main strategy for both France and Belgium. Oh, I cannot change it. Now I'm gonna explain how the trenches worked. I could do it with a drawing, like I did it in class, but I'm honestly too lazy to open a board. So please don't take points away from me. I'm being completely honest. I'm gonna do it with my hands. So both of the sides position themselves like facing each other with several meters of distance where there was absolutely no man. Like I think I forgot to highlight that on my presentation, like in the class. But yeah, and they fired each other from their trenches. And when one of the sides conquered the opposite trench, the soldiers had to move to another one. So if we're here and then like this side takes this trench, the soldiers in here had to move back to another. And that's how territory was like gained. But it was really slow. Months could go by and only a few meters could be like taken. And then like it could be easily gained back. It was like you're here, then you move and you move. But then you can move back and then move back. And they're like in this, it was like really, really slow and really obsolete. I'm gonna highlight some important elements of the war in the trenches. First of all, it was like the use of toxic gases for the war. There was not such thing before the World War One. The World War One was the beginning of the use of toxic gases, and in the trenches, it was one of the main weapons, especially the mustard gas. Then we have to highlight the lack of hygiene. Soldiers could not take showers regularly. They had to reserve themselves from going to the bathroom. They did not have water to drink. So this always led to them like being so desperate that they had to take water from wherever they can. So this also leads to lots of pest lices, rats, which also leads to lots of diseases. One of the most like important ones was the trench food, in which due to the having your feet in watery environments and like mud the whole time, fungus were developed, and it could go, if it was not treated correctly, you could get like your extremity like taken, like you could like lose it completely. There are some others that are like also important, but I'm not going to talk about them because once again, it's not my topic. So the impact of the use of trenches, if we have to be completely honest, they were absolutely obsolete. Like they did not change it anything after World War I. They were actually never used again in big conflicts. Like maybe they were used like 1 or 2 times in like really small conflicts, but they were like never recognized as something that changed their perspective in wars. Like they were called the living hell. They were called living hell. Like they were horrible. They did not bring any benefit to the countries, to the war, neither to the soldiers. They did not work. So I think this is where my presentation ends, but I have to talk about the war of attrition. I don't know why I lost that one slide. Like I did have it in class. But I already explained that war of attrition was the whole main like strategy in the World War One. And war of attrition leads to the complete loss of not only soldiers, but whole supplies and material of the other side. So it's basically consuming. It's violent. It's bloody. And it was like the whole concept of the World War One. This is why the World War One was one of the most feral and violent wars of the whole human history, because of how it was like managed by both of the sides. And that's how we also relate the whole war of attrition. As I already explained this whole thing in my slides, but you can really relate it. Like you can really see how war of attrition was connected to all of the things going on. It was like really, really important. It was really connected. And yep, that's it. I really hope that it make the timing. I do think I forgot some kind of things. My presentation in class was a bit like, I don't know, in a higher quality, but I did my best because this is, I haven't rehearsed like anything. This is all I know from reading from the whole like research I did, from the class presentation. It's like the same because I did like learn it, but I think I may have forgotten some things. So thank you. I'm gonna stop. And bye. I deserve a 10. I deserve a 10 or I'm gonna start a World War III.